People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachuku and these are the top stories. Wike's loyalist rejects redeployment, resigns from Fubara's cabinet. EFCC returns recovered assets to Enugu Governor Peter Mba. President Tinubu approves a routine of Palliative through religious traditional leaders. All Dana Air operations grounded by federal government. And US to send new Ukraine aid right away. Details now. The world news begins with an ally of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory Nyesom Wike, Zacchaeus Adango, resigning from the cabinet of Governor Similai Fubara of Rivers State. VOP News gather that Adango tendered his resignation letter today, Wednesday, 24th of April, 2024. He accused Governor Fubara of interfering with the performance of his duties as Attorney General of the state. You would recall that Fubara had on Tuesday removed Adango as a Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General of Rivers State and redeployed him to the Ministry of Special Duties. The move was made public in a statement released on Tuesday evening by the Secretary to the Rivers State Government, Tammy Danagogo. VOP News also understands that the reshuffling of the cabinet is in response to the ongoing political turmoil in the state. The Rivers Governor also reassigned Isaac Kamalu, who previously served as a Commissioner for Finance, to the Ministry of Employment, Generation and Economic Empowerment. Adango and Kamalu were among 9 commissioners who had earlier resigned their positions from Fubara's cabinet in the heat of the political crisis that rocked the state. The development followed a protracted feud between Governor Wike and his successor Fubara. Following the intervention of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, an 8-point truce was reached which Fubara mandated to reappoint the reassigned commissioners. Elsewhere, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission handed 14 recovered assets over to Governor Peter Mba of Enugu State. The chairman of the commission, Ola Olukaide, during the handing over ceremony held at the EFCC headquarters, Jabi, Abuja today, revealed that the assets recovered by the commissioner were forfeited to the federal government. Olukaide further said that the EFCC began an investigation into the development since 2007 and had achieved the conviction of persons in relation to the matter. He also noted that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu ordered the handover of the assets, which includes real estate, radio and television transmission equipment, and medical facility, amongst others, to the Enugu state government following a request by the EFCC. Also, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the routine of 20% of pilots through religious organizations and traditional institutions in the country. Vice President Kashim Shettima made this known on Tuesday while speaking at a high-level dialogue on nutrition at the State House in Abuja. Shettima said this while responding to concerns raised by the Imam of Bayero University, Kano, about the exclusion of traditional religious leaders from the distribution of palliatives. Shettima also announced that 20% of the funds released to the school feeding program will be channeled through the Office of the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning to religious bodies. Shettima also unveiled an ambitious plan to improve nutrition across Nigeria, with a rallying call to faith and traditional leaders to champion the effort in their communities. In another development, Dana Air operations have been suspended by Aviation Minister Festus Keyamo. The instruction was issued in response to the April 23 incident involving a Dana Air aircraft at Lagos Airport, which compelled aviation officials to reroute flights from the local airport to the international one. Ministry of Aviation stated that Keyamo's attention has been raised to the serious concerns that followed the incident in a letter dated April 24 and signed by the Ministry of Aviation's Permanent Secretary, Emmanuel Meribol. The event, according to the ministry, prompted questions about the safety and financial sustainability of Dana Air operations. You would recall that an aircraft belonging to Dana Air on Tuesday skidded off the runway in Lagos State. The incident happened at the Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos, and a source confirmed to correspondents that no casualties were recorded, but the aircraft suffered minimal damage. The video actually circulated on social media. A statement released by Dana shortly after confirmed the incident, stating that all 83 passengers and crew on board the flight disembarked safely without injuries. The airline also updated the Accident Investigation Bureau and the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority on the incident, with the aircraft involved grounded by the maintenance team for further investigation. You're listening to the World News on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a short break. When we return, more news, and we're heading to a news analysis segment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're still on to the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. In more news developments, former Anambra Governor and the presidential candidate of the Labour Party at the 2023 general elections, Peter Obi, has revealed that he is more concerned about the well-being of poor Nigerians than he is interested in politics. VOP News understands that the former governor made this comment while speaking at a press conference today, while he lamented that Nigerians were allowing themselves to be carried away by issues that do not concern people. He further disclosed that he has never mentioned politics during his visits to communities where he installed boreholes and carried out other philanthropic acts. Meanwhile, Dr. Doyin Okukpe, a former Director General of the Peter Obi presidential campaign, in an exclusive interview via Monitor television program, was speaking about why he and Peter Gregory Obi left the People's Democratic Party for the Labour Party. He indicated that Peter Obi is not a Labour person. However, he is a Labour person. During the interview, the Nigerian physician and politician who co-founded the Royal Cross Medical Center said the Labour Party for Peter, myself, and those of us that were the leadership of that movement was a special purpose vehicle, SPV. Regarding the reason why it was the Labour Party they defected to from the PDP, he said, in quote, "I have never been a Labour person, but we needed a platform, and this was the only platform that was readily available to us. There are no fast and hard roads about ideologies. You can only find a shade between the left and the right. You can move to the centre or slightly to the right of the centre." On what may have happened if they had won the 2023 presidential election, Doyin Okukpe stated that they were hoping and praying that if they had won, they would have found a way to come to some consensus or some understanding with the Labour ideology. Regarding the flag bearer of the Labour Party for the 2023 presidential election, he stated that Peter Obi is not a Labour person. He is a trader and a businessman just like him. There is nothing in his pedigree of political activities before now that would make him stay in a party where the anthem is ipso facto and all that. He also added that he is a liberal Democrat and believes in liberal democracy and full enterprise. Now, let's head into our news analysis segment, where I actually have joining me right here in the studio, Peter Onosike, who is a political and national affairs commentator, and I also have joining me via the telephone Barrister Darlington. Now, Barrister Darlington is to give us his perspective on some questions I'll be asked in corroboration with that of Mr. Peter Onosike. The idea is to have a healthy, different perspective on the questions I'll be asked. Mr. Peter Onosike, good evening, and thank you for joining us on the World News at 6.
Thank you for having me.
And also, Barrister Darlington, good evening, and thank you for joining me on the World News at 6 as well.
Yeah, sir, how are you?
I am fine. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to start off with you, Mr. Peter Onosike.
Hello to Peter.
Yes.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Peter.
sir.
All right, let's start off with what Kashim Shettima said about having to reroute some palliatives through traditional leaders, or traditional rulers and religious leaders. Do we think that this will work?
Well, basically, if they are to live up to their office,
okay,
this should be the best way, because these people are the father of the masses.
Okay.
That's the traditional rulers.
Yes.
A traditional ruler who doesn't belong to any political party.
All right.
And the religious leader who does not belong to any party.
Okay.
Therefore, they will diligently do what they are asked to do.
All right, Barrister Darlington, are you of the same perspective or notion as Mr. Peter Anosike on the rerouting of 20% of palliatives through religious organizations and traditional institutions in the country?
Come again, please.
I said that the president has approved the routing of 20% of palliatives through religious organizations and traditional institutions in the country. Mr. Peter Anosike actually said it's a good thing so long as they are transparent in the process. What's your take on that development? I want to hear your own angle to that.
I think it would have been better if he go to the traditional rulers instead of religious leaders.
All right.
Because certain religious leaders are very exploitative. They will use this palliative now to exploit their people. And then you and I know what happens when that exploitation come into the play.
All right.
We are not comfortable with that.
All right. Mr. Peter Anosike, you heard what Doyin Okukwe said about Peter Obi. He said Peter Obi is not a labor person. He's a trader or a businessman just like him. And according to him, he said there were no party ideologies. It was basically looking for a platform. According to him, a special purpose vehicle. The Labour Party was a special purpose vehicle. And he was able to divulge his financial involvement and all of that, what made him resign from the Labour Party. He said he was one who resigned. He spoke with Peter Obi about it, and Peter Obi did not even mind. He wanted him to continue in his position, but that he deliberately resigned because of all that was, the whole entire circus around the situation. What would you say concerning this expression of Doyin Okukwe now, after a lot of things, the dust has settled?
Well, for me, I would describe Peter Obi as a roadside politician.
Why would you say he's a roadside politician?
Peter Obi is not Nigerian kind of politician.
Okay.
Peter Obi is an entrepreneur.
All right.
Peter Obi is an entrepreneur. So he who delve into politics to serve the people. That's why I say that I would describe him as a roadside politician, not the politicians that is a professional politician.
Okay.
Peter Obi is not a professional politician. Understand? And again, one of the reasons why Nigeria is not making any headway is that we have never had a thoroughbred businessman as the president in this country. Since 1960 up to today, we've not had a thoroughbred businessman.
Okay.
Because you can never give what you don't have. And that's why we are suffering. You and that president had never even prepared a balance sheet. Understand me? Buhari has never prepared a balance sheet.
All right. Barrister Darlington, let me come on to you now. In reaction to the entire political back and forth in the Labour Party, the PDP, the APC, the batified, the articulated, and the obedient, there are talks that Peter Obi himself is strategically positioning himself ahead of 2027. They've stated that most of his philanthropic activities are deliberately engineered towards ensuring that he gets in the face of a lot of people ahead of 2027. Peter Obi has come out to clarify that that is not the case. He is not involved or he's not interested in politics. He's only concerned about poor Nigerians and ensuring that democracy is duly served. What's your take on his response and what Doyin Okukwe said about the presidential candidate of the Labour Party and what they considered Labour Party to be in the first instance?
What Peter Obi said is a political statement.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there is no way he can reach out the poor if he does not become the president of this country. It's not possible. The only way he can serve the need of the poor is when he gets into power and use the instrument of power to now evolve programs, policies that will benefit the poor, using the instrumentality of governance or government.
Okay.
So if he's saying that he's a political statement, just like most people, didn't somebody cry and tell us that he's no longer interested in politics, that he's done with politics. only for him to come back and deal with all of us.
All right.
P2B, where he's coming from, people have forgotten. He's coming from the UK. And for somebody to be chairman of a bank for 20 years in the UK is not a joke. He has evolved with the character and the mannerism of a UK politician.
All right, Barrister Darlington, if I'm to get something right here, Ms. Anozike said Peter Obi is not he's a roadside politician, right? He's more of a businessman. And then you are actually saying that Peter Obi cannot get across to all the poor. According to you, it's a political statement that he made, isn't it? Now, if
Yes.
it's a political statement, why has he not responded to a lot of calls from his opponents and supporters of other political elites like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, on his mandate ahead of 2027? Secondly, you remember post-election, he actually revealed via a press conference that the Labour Party will become a strong force. That is, they will become a strong political critic. So is there a discordant tune in what he's saying now, what he said then, and what you guys just responded to now?
That's what I'm telling you now, that what he made, you don't let if you have read the 48 laws of power, you don't let your opponent to know where you're going. It is a strategy.
Okay.
If he starts crying now that if I don't become president in 2027, heaven will fall, I must get it at all, but by all means and all that, then his opponents will now wait for him and then ambush him.
All right.
So that's, the way he's going about it, I think it's okay. Until 2027 comes, let him remain the way it is.
All right, let's head on to
comes.
Rivers State. I do apologize that I seem to be in a hurry because we're running out of time and program is coming up immediately after the news. Apparently, there's a situation, there's a crisis in Rivers State. Well, let's not say there's a crisis. There's always been one ever since Nyesom Wike and his political godson actually had a conflict. Well, the commissioner, right, and you would actually call him an ally of the FCT minister, his name is Zaccheaus Adango. He has resigned from the cabinet of Governor Similai Fubara. He tendered his resignation letter today. He accused Governor Fubara of interfering with the performance of his duties as Attorney General of the state. Now, Mr. Peter Onosike, on Tuesday, Adango was removed as a Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General of Rivers State, and he was redeployed to the Ministry of Special Duties. The move was actually made in a public statement. Where does this place Fubara and those who are meant to be working under him? Because it seems like a lot of people or a lot of his political persons who are working within his cabinet have been contravening most of the decisions he makes. They even take decisions without him. So where does this place Rivers State now?
Well, for me, I saw it as a strategic move.
Okay.
Because, one, it is within his power to reshuffle his cabinet as a governor.
Okay.
He didn't do anything strange. It is within his power to reshuffle his cabinet how many times he wants it.
Okay.
Then, you don't give your enemy your commissioner for finance and the attorney general of your state.
All right.
These are two sensitive positions that shouldn't be left for weak proteges.
All right.
So by changing them, it is a bold step.
Okay.
It is a bold step, and for me, he is getting on the right
Track.
the direction.
All right, Barrister Darlington, Adango
Yes.
and Kamalu were among 9 commissioners who had earlier resigned from their positions from Fubara's cabinet in the heat of the political crisis around the state. This was due to a protracted feud between the former Governor Wike and his successor Fubara. Now, since the president intervened, an 8-point truce was reached which mandated Fubara to reappoint the resigned commissioners. So this particular individual was one of those who resigned, and he was reappointed. Now he's resigning again. So the question is, if Fubara had actually aligned himself with the political truce that was reached between him and the president and Wike, this guy resigning, what does it mean? Has it contravened the political truce? And in what way would it place his continuity as being the governor of Rivers State?
Please, I don't want us to be referring to that presidential order to a sitting governor. It is not a constitutional matter.
Okay.
So, yes, and the governor has the right to choose those who will work with him. And whenever you are not working according to his vision, he has the right to reshuffle his government and send you away.
In this case, this man resigned. He was reappointed. After he resigned initially, he was reassigned by the governor, and now he has resigned again. So would we say politically that Fubara had already aligned himself with the political truce? This individual was one who resigned according to his own deeds.
Now, when he reassigned the Attorney General, that is a demotion now. The man could not stomach it. That was why he left. And it is very, very important because these two offices or these two ministries, the Ministry of Justice and the Finance Minister, they are very important with what the their State Assembly is doing now.
All right.
Because it is the Finance Commissioner that will now release funds and all that. And then the Attorney General will equally play a role. So if Fubara will retain his position and all that, those two people have to go, and he will choose somebody who will listen to him.
All right. Now, finally, before I let you go, Mr. Peter Anosike, Dana Air Operations, all Dana Air Operations has been grounded. This particular communique was issued via the Minister of Aviation, and that is Festus Keyamo. The situation with Dana is not just today. They've always had turbulent experiences. And would we say this is the last call for Dana Air Operations?
Well, what the Minister of Aviation did is the right thing.
Okay.
When Boeing had a problem, they were grounded for investigations. So this is the process in the aviation industry. So whether they will come back again, I don't know. But the step is a very good one. There needs to be investigation. What's needed to ascertain the remote and immediate cause and then project on the future.
All right.
So it's a good step.
Barrister Darlington, what's your take, please, before we wrap up?
As long as that airline is owned by the Indians, they will find their way.
Wow.
If not for the character of the persons behind that airline, they would have left Nigeria long ago. But because they are Indians and they have a foothold in this country, they will always find a way. That's what I think.
All right,
they will override Keyamo. By tomorrow, they will be on air.
Are you sure? Festus seems to be quite rugged since he assumed his portfolio, officially assumed his portfolio as aviation minister. You see how he was able to investigate Hadi Sirika and all the contracts and all that transpired within the aviation industry. Don't you think he will be very thorough this time around?
No, Keyamo will only back or he will not bite.
Wow. Barrister Darlington.
Because if he could have done something, I think during the Hadi Siraki debacle, he should have showed himself, but he couldn't do anything.
He should have showed himself. He did a press conference where he explained all that happened, and he said it's on the table of the president. The president is the one that would officially kick off when the investigation will resume, which commenced yesterday. So I think, within his, would you call it jurisdiction, he's working.
Keyamo is not the kind of person he claims to be. I said he can only back, he cannot bite.
All right.
If this man is what he claims, remember when he told us that if he's 20,000 naira monthly stipends to Nigerian youth, if the thing failed or if it was hijacked, he will resign. How many people got that money? Was it not hijacked by the National Assembly members when they are asking for slots all over the place? Until the thing, we don't even know how that thing ended. Yes, Keyamo did not resign. And since he has been in that ministry, I have not seen anything substantial he has done.
Barrister Darlington, some critics will say that you really don't want to say anything positive about this administration.
We know how he came there. We know all the things he said. We know all the things he said against P2B and all that. So they cannot deceive me again. Since he came into the so-called aeronautic whatever. Has he achieved anything in that area?
President,
What
thank
has
you
he
so much.
actually
We've run
done in
out of
that
time. I
area?
sincerely do appreciate your input in
Except
giving
to
us
go
your
and grind
perspective
the
on the
Ghana
world news
airline.
at 6.
Why didn't he grind
Mr. Peter Anosike, thank you so much as well for
Thank you for
sharing your
having me.
perspective
Thank you
on the
for
world
having me.
news at 6. All right, on the foreign scene, President Joe Biden has signed a $95 billion package of aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. The president said the U.S. would right away send fresh weapons and equipment to Ukraine to help Kiev field off Russian advances. He spoke a day after the U.S. Senate approved the aid package following months of congressional gridlock. Ukraine has recently stepped up its calls for Western assistance as Russia makes steady gains in its invasion. Included in the package is $61 billion in military aid for Ukraine, and it passed the Senate in a bipartisan vote of 79 to 18. Tuesday's evening's approval came after the measure passed the U.S. House of Representatives on Saturday. To wrap up the world news at 6, here again are the top stories. You heard that Wike's loyalist rejects redeployment, resigns from Fubara's cabinet. EFCC returns recovered access to Enugu Governor Peter Rimba. President Tinubu approves routine of Palliative through religious traditional leaders. Ordana air operations grounded by federal government. And war in Ukraine, the United States has sent new aid right away, according to Biden. That's a wrap on the world news at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku. Good evening and thank you for listening.